Sales Team, your hometown realtors.
Our Excelsior Springs Hospital, where better care is right in your backyard. Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit excelsiorcitizen.com today.
If the mics blow up in a minute, just don't think anything of it. I can hear the buzzing, so.
I'm ready.
Ready? All right. Sorry for the delay. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
First by Troy,
Second.
second by Kalen. All those in favor? And that passes 6-0. Please note Darren was absent this evening. If you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time I'd entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
First by Rick,
Second.
second by Jill. All those in favor? And that passes 6-0. Next up is our classified employee of the month, Dr. Bullymore.
If it pleases the board, we'd like to recognize the Classified Employee of the Month this month as Mrs. Tracy White for her dedication to students and staff at Cornerstone Elementary. Tracy's come to Cornerstone and worked hard to initiate and innovate ideas to provide better support for our kids, staff, and families. She is a self-starter who is always looking for ways to make things more clear and better for the whole school environment. She is a great go-getter, and we are so glad she is at Cornerstone. Tracy was nominated by Principal Brian Sloan and Assistant Principal Mrs. Jessica Broadbent. She wanted to pass along her thanks for the recognition. Presented that to her just before Christmas break, and she was very excited about that. So she wanted me to pass that along to you guys. Classified Employee District Award is sponsored by the Excelsior Springs Hospital. The Excelsior Springs Hospital proudly supports the students and staff of the Excelsior Springs School District. While we're on recognitions, I had one more thing I wanted to add that pleases the board. So we received notification just this afternoon that the school district and our employee received 2 Community Excellence Awards. The first one is the school district is honored to be the best place of business for somewhere with 50+ workers. So congratulations for being the board of the best business of 50+ workers in town. And then also the best teacher, Miss Olivia Hockemeyer, who's an instructional coach at Elkhorn and then throughout the district, was recognized as the best teacher. So congratulations to Olivia and to the school district.
All right.
So
Dr. Tomlinson.
this is just a little extra thing. We just received these today, but Lisa's kind enough to help me with this. But we have some gifts to hand out to board members, and these were put together by the Early Childhood Center. And so we wanted to go ahead and give these to you guys. They put together and signed some notes and bags for you. So thought this would be a good opportunity to hand those out.
Excellent. Pass along our thanks. I don't think there's anybody out there, is there?
It is.
Dr. Katie, if you're watching, thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
All right, next up is the great video for the MSBA delegate report. Who's the oral? Well, I guess roll the video.
It's Jill.
Yeah.
Jill.
It's
How do you
Jill.
roll that?
It's a new person.
You're the alternate candidate.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Push play.
In the early 1960s, John F.
I must have been
Kennedy was
gone
an
back.
asset employee. During his visit, he encountered a custodian mopping the floors. Kennedy asked the employee, "Why are you working so late?" The custodian replied, "Because I'm not mopping the floors, I'm putting a man on the moon."
Thank you.
The takeaway being, the day-to-day work of all connects to the ultimate goal. That mentality was on full display in your work in 2022. In public education, the vision of a better future for all communities and a mission that strives for the success of all students is as audacious and aspirational as ever. But the day-to-day work from school leaders across the state, throughout some of the most challenging circumstances, served as an inspiration and will continue to guide us. There were many challenges to be faced in 2022, but once again, engaged community champions rose to the occasion. The 2022 legislative session convened on January 5th. Once again this past year, the advocacy efforts of Missouri school board members had a significant impact on legislation and policy being considered on the state and national levels. Along with parents and community members, local school leaders made their voices heard and advocated on behalf of students and districts across the state.
We have to be an advocate for children across the district. And so when I think about it, I'm advocating for the children that don't live in my house, that don't have a mom that might show up to something and might not know all of, how they can express themselves. So I can be that voice.
Last year, it was as apparent as ever that teachers make the difference. Not all heroes wear capes. Some look just like the rest of us and are hiding in plain sight, inside the four walls of our Missouri classrooms, making a difference and igniting the spark inside students every day. As teacher shortages struck many districts, communities and school boards around the state worked tirelessly to create solutions to uplift and protect the teachers making a difference.
My school board supported me by engaging in tough conversations, some very intense fellowship. That concept of being a champion for our public schools and of being a champion in our public schools. And I appreciate all of you for being both of those things.
Our boards of education in Missouri are diligently working to find solutions, and we will continue to do so as we strive to strengthen that workforce. Now, our work is not done as far as the commission. The next thing we really need to look at, and I know there's not a school district in the state of Missouri that hasn't come across this, but another committee is formed to look at the culture and climate.
Ultimately, one of the greatest factors in determining whether or not school districts achieve student success is an engaged and effective local school board. The day-to-day work of implementing policy, board training and development, and ensuring school safety is the work that places schools and communities on a trajectory to the best possible future.
Oscar Wilde has a great quote, one of my favorites. He said, experience is the best teacher because it gives you the test and then the lesson. And we've learned a lot these last 2 years, and I think we need to celebrate that. Celebrate the things we did well, learn from the things we didn't do good and failed at, and move forward and celebrate those.
As the year wound down with the 2022 MSBA Annual Conference, former NASA astronaut Dr. Bernard Harris reminded the audience at the second general session that the minds of students aren't limited to just reaching the moon, they are infinite.
One of my favorite sayings is that I'm an infinite being with infinite possibilities. And when I'm in a group of students, I will actually force them, especially high school, force them to repeat after me that I'm an infinite being with infinite possibilities. That they come into this world with certain skills and abilities that are uniquely theirs, and it's our job to nurture those things. And it's your job, and all of our jobs, to use education to add to those talents that they have. But the most important aspect of this notion of being an infinite being with infinite possibility is this, that each and every one of you and each and every one of them was born for a reason. And we have to help them discover what those reasons are. I can't think of a better thing to do for our young kids, but to enable them, to empower them to be whatever it is that they want to be.
In 2022, MSBA was proud to stand side by side with each and every one of you in supporting our local schools, and we will continue to do so in 2023 and beyond. The day-to-day work continues as we look ahead not just to the moon, but to the infinite possibilities of a new year.
Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
Mr. Alternate, do you have anything further?
Nothing further, Mr. President.
We now know who the alternate is.
I was probably gone that day.
If you aren't at a meeting, you do get appointed to things that no one else wants to do. So, all right, we have no visitors tonight, so we'll go to item F, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Tomlinson.
If you go to can you pull up that presentation for me there on that report, and I want to go to that first slide. So one of the things I wanted to update tonight and kind of talk about for a second was where we're at financially. Can you go to that next slide for me? If you take a look, so we just updated these numbers, and I want you to take a look at the first column at the bottom there, where we started the year with about $7 million in the bank. Compare that to last year on our first day of school, we had $10 million in the bank. So that's a $3 million drop that we were beginning the year with. And it's also there presented graphically. And we've talked about this throughout the year. If you guys remember, I talked about we need to do a good job this year of tightening our belt strap a little bit, slowing down spending, and trying to make sure that we make up some of that ground from starting behind a little bit. So if you take a look at that first comparison there, we're $3 million behind. You go into August, and we're 2.3. I'm sorry, yeah, 2.3. And then we're at 2, and then we're at 1.3, 1.3, and then now in December we just finished 500,000 below where we were last year. So we started at 3 million behind where we were last year, and in end of December we were as close as 500,000 from last year. So I think that is a good representation of our trend line, that we are slowing down our spending to try to make sure that we end up this year with an acceptable amount of reserves, which I know has been our concerns as things move forward. If you take a look at the graph, you can see that there's kind of a common theme to how these evolve each year because of how our spending works. We're making our payroll. So as you notice, it starts in July and then it kind of declines as we're making payroll, and then it kind of bottoms out in December. And you kind of see our light blue line there is this current year, and you see how that's kind of flattened out relative to last year's yellow, okay? The biggest thing we need to wait for now is how things develop in January. This is when we receive our revenues from the county. This is why everything spikes up every year. You see how far that jumps up when we get all of our money coming in from taxes. So until we receive that money, we don't know exactly what that's going to entail. So the big question is going to be, how far up does that light blue line jump? The expectation would be if it can get over that yellow line and we actually see a positive there, that's going to be very positive for us moving forward. And any shortfall that has from that yellow line will just be a continued persistence by us to try to tighten our belts a little bit and really manage our spending throughout this year. So I just want to give a snapshot and show you what the numbers tell us, and that dictates how we lead and manage the district, trying to make good decisions so that we're able to capitalize that onto our best ability. Do you have any questions about any of that? Okay. I'm going to be honest, we're kind of excited about that. I mean, we're getting really close.
Yeah, we're very close.
Yeah. The next slide can be a little bit tricky, but I kind of wanted it that way on purpose. So instead of doing our attendance for the whole year, I went ahead and just said, what is it so far this year? You know, we just came off break. How are we doing? It's only been 2 weeks, right? So there's not a lot of data here, but I wanted to see how are we starting off the semester. This is just since we've come back to school. But if you take a look, we have really good numbers to start this semester. This is the kind of numbers we would expect to see throughout the entire year. We really need to work hard and figure out when does this start to decline and how can we do a better job of keeping kids in school. The next one is actually a repeat from last month, but I think it's important that we get this information out so that people understand, especially our staff, what this is going to mean for next year. We're going to reintroduce Career Ladder to certified staff. This will give staff the opportunity to earn anywhere from $1,500 in additional money next year to up to $5,000 in additional money. We do receive a portion of this from the state, but there is a cost to the district as well. This is one of the reasons why we're trying to be so diligent in our money this year so that we can afford a program like this for next year. This is an important step to take advantage of a lot of money from the state, but also some money from our own coffers to try to make sure our staff are getting as much as they can for the additional work that they do for our kids. So I'm going to hit this over and over again because I really want our staff to hear and know about this, and I want our community to understand that we're getting advantages when we have them to make sure they're being compensated for the work that they're doing. Any questions on career ladder?
Is the state component of that a long-term commitment on their part, or do we know yet?
The state commitment is not a long-term commitment. It's good for this year, and we hope that it will move forward in additional years. But nonetheless, we've had it before. It's very popular with staff, so we're going to take advantage of it the best we can. We're going to hope that the state continues to pony up their portion of it, but either way, we're committed to making sure that this is going to be something for our teachers moving forward. Okay. Next up, I've got, again, a slide that you saw before, but I'm going to hit this really the biggest thing this year for us to tackle is going to be Proposition Lewis. Again, we're going to go to voters in April. The election is going to ask voters if we can increase Fund 1 levy by 70 cents. And the first thing I want people to know is we're also decreasing Fund 3 by 70 cents. So overall, it will be the exact same tax rate to taxpayers. Whether they approve it or not, they will pay the exact same taxes. But if they approve it, it will allow us to use that money to build a brand new Lewis Elementary School. So that's really what I want people to understand. Vote yes, vote no, your taxes will be exactly the same, but if you access those funds in order to purchase a new building.
So again, we're just moving funds from Fund 3 to Fund 1.
We're moving funds from Fund 3 to Fund 1.
No, nothing extra, no increase.
No extra. Your tax bill will be the same whether it's yes or whether it passes or fails, your taxes will be the same either way. It just allows us, I try to use this comparison. It's like we're asking the taxpayers for permission to move money from our savings account to our checking account so that we can actually pay the bill to build a new building. And we're very hopeful that all the supporters who helped build Cornerstone will now in turn do the same thing for the students at Lewis because they deserve having a new building just as much as anyone else does. Okay. The next slide kind of talks about some of the timelines that are coming forward. I decided to do things a little bit different, and I'm hopeful that you guys can maybe even engage with a couple questions in my report. I wanted to cede some of my time. I have a friend decided to join us this evening from Insight Design, our lead architect, and if everyone knows Patrick. And we had a really productive meeting today where we reviewed a lot with Newkirk Novak and IDS. And I said, Patrick, you know what would be great? Why don't you come and give an up? Things are moving forward and kind of inform the board and maybe they can have a chance to ask some questions and kind of get some direction from them where we can move forward with all of our long-range facility plans.
Sure. So we'll get, I brought some pretty pictures. I know Dr. Tomlinson always, you know, those are his favorite. So I wanted to kind of give a status of where we're at so far. There was the schedule up on the screen a little bit. IDS and Newkirk and Novak, we've been working back and forth, a lot of meetings. Internally, our two teams working through this, kind of figuring out when are we going to put anything out to bid, how does this work with, you know, the Proposition Lewis in April. So we've been starting, we've taken a look at the renderings, and let's see if this see if there we go. Okay, so we've got a look at the front entry of what Lewis Elementary would look like, and I'm going to roll through some exterior and interior renderings, and then we'll have a discussion point on a floor plan option or two, and just what the board's take on that is. But the renderings really don't change on either option. So from an exterior or interior, it's all going to be the same. But this is view that's actually kind of in the front left corner, the massing of the post office as well, so you can start to see how this Lewis Elementary is going to situate on site. This would be from Job Corps Hill. Kind of looking back down on the building, you see what, you know, the difference between Cornerstone and Lewis is at Cornerstone we had a very elevated site or a hilly site, so we put the front entry up on the top of the hill and then it kind of fell back towards the back of the building. Here, it's a flatter site, so the admin is actually going to drop and it would be adjacent to the cafeteria as opposed to the media center. We'll still have the cafeteria on the lower level and it'll be right next to admin, and media center will still be on the upper level. And so what that's going to create here too is this two-story atrium, or this two-story vestibule as right when you would enter the building, that secure entry, and it's this nice two-corner glassy window that you'll be able to see as you come down Job Corps Hill 2, and we're going to do some nice lighting fixtures in there, and it can glow up at night and everything. It's going to be very pretty.
A beacon
A beacon, one might say.
beacon for
I heard somebody
education.
throw that
Beacon
term
of
out earlier
education.
today. It really rang true. So,
Beautiful.
we also, you'll notice there is still some of the ties and connections to Cornerstone and Elkhorn from a materiality. The brick, you see a little bit of the metal panel as well with the pops of color that we did at Elkhorn also, but we wanted to make sure we were tying into downtown as well. And one thing I failed to put into this presentation was a picture of the elms. I should have put that in right before here, but if you can picture the elms, there's some of the rustic stone on the building. It's got more of those cream colors, the beige colors to it, as well as a lot of accents of wood pop. So what we wanted to do is pick some of those areas to be able to change out that yellow and gold metal panel for a wood. It looks like wood, but it is actually metal panel. So from a durability standpoint, it's going